No one expected Alexandra Grant to say this. Not her fans, not the media, not even the man she's talking about. For 15 years, she carried a secret that could change everything we thought we knew about her life. And at 51, she finally snapped and revealed the truth. A truth so shocking, it left the entire room frozen in silence. For years, Alexandra Grant walked red carpets with a calmness that made people admire her and question her. She had a presence that was both graceful and untouchable, the kind of quiet confidence that made people wonder what she was truly hiding behind those gentle smiles and deep, thoughtful eyes. She was successful, elegant, private, almost mysteriously private. Journalists tried, fans speculated, the media guessed, but no one ever truly understood her. Because Alexandra was a woman who lived with her heart carefully protected. But behind that soft smile, she carried a story she never intended to make public. A story that wasn't glamorous, wasn't dramatic, but was deeply human and filled with silent battles she carried alone. Until now, at 51, Alexandra finally decided to speak. And the way she chose to reveal her truth shocked everyone. Not in a dramatic press conference, not in a headline-making magazine article, not in a talk show designed to grab ratings. Instead, it happened in the most unexpected way, a quiet, intimate conversation where she finally let her guard down for the very first time. The interviewer expected the usual answers, her art, her projects, her inspirations. But Alexandra surprised everyone when she paused, took a deep breath, and allowed years of silence to finally break. The world always assumed she had a perfectly controlled life, that she was strong, independent, unshakable, that nothing and no one had the power to touch her heart so deeply. But they were wrong, because when she finally opened her mouth, she said one sentence that froze everyone in the room. "He changed me in a way no one ever saw." In that moment, everything shifted. The lights felt brighter. The room seemed quieter. Even the interviewer leaned forward, sensing that something much bigger than a simple conversation was about to unfold. Alexandra's voice softened as she spoke, and suddenly, a hidden chapter of her life began to reveal itself. A chapter filled with pain she never talked about, patience she never received before, healing she didn't expect, and a man who entered her life at the exact moment she needed someone the most. She explained that before meeting him, she was fighting battles no one knew about, the loneliness of fame, the pressure of expectations, the emotional exhaustion of being misunderstood. She had built walls around herself, not out of pride, but out of survival. But this man, he didn't try to break those walls. He simply stood on the other side, patient and steady, until she felt safe to open up. Alexander revealed that he didn't change her by doing something grand or dramatic. He changed her by doing something rare. He saw her, truly saw her, not the public figure, not the artist, not the woman the world talked about, but her, the person behind it all. And that, she said, was the kind of impact she could never hide anymore. Because his presence didn't just enter her life, it transformed it. And now, at 51, she was finally ready to share the truth the world had been guessing for years, the truth that defined her journey, her strength, and the quiet love that reshaped her life forever. Alexandra was known as a powerful visual artist with her own world, her own voice, her own identity. She wasn't someone who blended into trends or followed the crowd. She created her own path, bold, unique, and deeply thoughtful. And because of that, she never chased fame. Fame chased her. But most people never saw the other side of her journey, the side she kept locked away from the cameras. Behind the polished interviews and the confident public persona, Alexandra was quietly struggling to be understood in an industry that often celebrates noise over depth, appearance over substance, speed over meaning. Years before she met him, she went through a period where she felt unseen, unheard, and misunderstood. Not because she lacked talent, the world already knew that, but because fame brought a kind of isolation she never expected. People admired her art, but rarely tried to understand the heart behind it. They praised her success, but overlooked her silence. They looked at her, but they didn't see her. And then, one evening, everything shifted. It happened at a private art event. Elegant, quiet, filled with the kind of people who speak loudly, but say very little. Alexandra attended out of obligation, not excitement. She stood by her own artwork, answering the same repetitive questions she'd been asked 100 times before, feeling more like a display than a human being. But then he walked in, not with arrogance, not with the energy of someone trying to impress the room, Just calm, grounded, present. He approached her, but not with the familiar attitude of someone wanting a photo or story. He didn't treat her like a celebrity accessory. Didn't ask superficial questions. Didn't comment on her looks or achievements. Instead, he asked her a question that felt like a key turning inside a locked door. What inspires you when no one is watching? That single question, simple yet profoundly human, caught her completely off guard. It had been years since anyone cared about her inner world, her quiet thoughts, the part of her that existed when fame wasn't looking. Something inside her opened. They began talking, slowly at first, then deeply, then endlessly. They spoke about creativity, loss, hope, personal battles, and the strange, unpredictable turns life often takes. He listened, really listened, in a way she didn't know she needed. For the first time in years, Alexandra felt understood. Not for her public image, not for her success, but for her mind, her curiosity, her spirit. That night, she walked away with a realization she couldn't ignore. This was not an ordinary connection. This wasn't someone dazzled by her fame or her art. This was someone who saw her completely, the visible and the invisible. A person she felt she could trust without effort, without fear, without pretense. But the truth she's finally sharing today, the truth she held close to her heart for so long, wasn't about romance, wasn't about headlines, wasn't about Hollywood glamour. It was about something far greater, something deeper than love stories and celebrity rumors. It was about the rare kind of human connection that arrives quietly, changes everything, and stays with you forever. Behind Alexandra's strength was a secret she carried for years without letting it crack the surface. People saw her as confident, composed, and unshakable, but they never knew the heaviness she lived with behind closed doors. She had lost people she loved, friends who once felt like family, mentors who shaped her career and then disappeared too soon, and a past partner whose absence left a wound she quietly learned to live with. Life had taught her a brutal lesson. Every time she let someone close, she paid for it with heartbreak. Emotional closeness, for her, wasn't comfort. It was a reminder of how quickly everything could be taken away. So when he stepped into her life with kindness, depth, and a sincerity she had almost forgotten existed, Alexandra didn't feel excited. She felt terrified. She kept her walls high, walls built from years of loss, disappointment, and silent grief. She avoided opening up fully, convinced that letting someone in again would only lead to more pain. To her, caring too much wasn't a blessing. It was a risk she wasn't ready to take. But he didn't push. He didn't demand explanations. He didn't try to fix. He offered her something she hadn't felt in years. A safe place to be herself. A place where she didn't have to perform, impress, or pretend everything was okay. A place where she could be quiet and still be understood. But here's the part she never told the world. Not until now. She almost walked away from him. Not because she didn't care. Not because he did something wrong. She almost walked away because caring felt dangerous. Because her heart wasn't used to being held gently. Because she feared that letting someone in again would reopen every wound she had carefully stitched closed. For months, she battled with fear. The fear that history would repeat itself, and she'd lose something she didn't know how to live without. So she pushed him away. She distanced herself. Missed calls, delayed replies, excuses that seemed harmless but were really shields to protect her bruised heart. And yet, he didn't respond with anger. He didn't accuse her or make her feel guilty. He didn't walk away in frustration. Instead, he did the one thing she never expected. He waited, patiently, quietly, respectfully. He waited without pressure. He waited without questions. He waited because he understood something she hadn't realized yet. That love isn't proven in intensity, but in consistency. And in that consistency, something inside Alexandra began to heal. His patience didn't just comfort her. It changed her, more than any dramatic gesture ever could. It showed her that love, real love, doesn't rush, demand, or overwhelm. It simply stays. And for Alexandra, that made all the difference. When Alexandra sat down for her interview at 51, she appeared calm, composed, almost serene. But beneath that calmness was a wave of emotion she could no longer hide. It was in her eyes, soft, reflective, almost trembling with the weight of everything she was finally ready to say. She took a slow, steady breath, as if preparing to open a door she had kept locked for years. And then she revealed the truth, a truth that left the entire room silent. He was the first person who loved me without trying to own me. Those words carried decades of experience, decades of disappointments, decades of learning the difference between affection and possession. She explained that in a world filled with loud personalities, fragile egos, and relationships built on power rather than partnership, he gave her something she never thought she would find: emotional freedom. He never asked her to change, never tried to reshape her into someone more Hollywood, never suggested she soften her personality or hide her artistic intensity to fit a public image. He didn't want a polished version of her. He didn't want the version the world expected. He wanted her, the real Alexandra, the one who dreamed too big, who felt too deeply, who questioned everything. Instead of controlling her, he celebrated her. Instead of dimming her light, he helped it shine brighter. Alexandra's voice shook slightly as she continued. He showed me that real love, real connection, doesn't take from you. It gives to you. It makes you more yourself, not less. For years, she had been surrounded by people who loved the idea of her, not the truth of her. People who admired her success but didn't understand her soul. People who wanted her presence but not her complexity. But he was different. He didn't just love her. He honored her. She revealed that with his help, she began rebuilding parts of her heart she thought were lost forever. The part that believed in trust. The part that believed in vulnerability. The part that believed she deserved to be loved gently. He respected her boundaries, never crossing the emotional lines she needed to feel safe. He supported her dreams, even the ones she was scared to say out loud. And most importantly, he protected her peace. In a world that constantly demanded pieces of her time, her energy, her art, her presence, he was the one person who gave back more than he took. Then Alexandra shared something she had never said publicly before, something that explained the depth of her gratitude. I became a better artist, a better friend, and a better woman because of him. Not because he saved her, not because he fixed her, not because he became the center of her universe, but because he did the rarest thing anyone had ever done for her. He encouraged her to save herself. He didn't try to be her hero. He didn't try to take credit for her healing. He simply stood beside her, steady, patient, supportive, as she rebuilt her own strength. Her smile softened as she finished her confession. It wasn't the smile of a woman in love. It was the smile of a woman finally free. Alexandra ended her story with a message so powerful, so honest, that it stunned everyone listening. For most of the interview, she spoke with calm strength, but in this final moment, her voice softened, as if she were revealing the most fragile truth of all. She looked down for a second, gathered her thoughts, and then said, "The truth is, he changed my life not by being perfect, but by being kind. In a world obsessed with flawlessness, glamour, and image, those words felt like a breath of fresh air." She wasn't praising perfection. She wasn't talking about grand romantic gestures. She was talking about kindness, the one thing that had quietly transformed her life from the inside out. Alexandra then explained something that made everyone rethink how they view relationships, especially in the world of fame. She said the world often asks the wrong questions. Who is she dating? Where did they go? Are they still together? Questions built on curiosity, gossip, and headlines, not on understanding. But for her, the real questions were always different. Who helped her grow? Who made her feel understood? Who gave her the courage to be vulnerable again? Those were the questions that mattered. Those were the questions that defined her story, not the ones printed in magazines or whispered online. And that's the truth she wanted to share. Not gossip, not drama, not a scandal for the world to feed on. She wanted to express something rare in Hollywood. Gratitude. Pure, unfiltered gratitude for someone who walked into her life and chose to treat her with gentleness when the world treated her like a headline. She said she finally decided to speak because she wanted people to understand something important, something she learned only after years of silence. Sometimes the most powerful relationships aren't the loud ones flaunted on red carpets. They aren't the ones splashed across tabloids or trending on social media. Sometimes, the relationships that change us the most are the quiet ones, the gentle ones, the deeply human ones, the ones that happen behind closed doors in the quiet corners of life, away from cameras and noise. The ones where two people see each other, really see each other, with honesty, respect, and care. As she came to the end of her story, Alexandra paused, her eyes reflecting both peace and vulnerability. And then she ended with a message that felt like it came from the deepest part of her heart. Everyone deserves someone who sees them, really sees them, He was that person for me. In that moment, the room fell completely silent. It wasn't just a celebrity speaking. It was a woman revealing the truth behind her strength, her growth, and her healing. And with that, Alexandra Grant, a woman who spent years protecting her privacy and guarding her heart, finally allowed the world to see something far more intimate. The heart behind the artist, the woman behind the quiet smile, and the truth behind the life-changing connection she had kept hidden for so long.